Guys, I was so heartbroken. This crushed me. I felt my world was going to stop. Welcome to the journey of awesomeness with me, your girl, Rita K. To Hi Say. Today is a lovely one. I'll be sharing with you on how I ended up where I am right now. Before we dive in, I want to give a warm welcome to those who are here for the very first time you're watching this video. Thank you so much. Welcome to the journey of awesomeness. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't joined the family, and follow me on all my social media platforms, Rita K. To Hi Say. I'm sure in some of your different kinds of struggles, you have ever heard of this common inspiration talk that says your beginning does not determine your end, right? Naomi Doty's book titled Destiny Calling, it affirms it. But over the years, I can quickly confirm that this is one of the most fruitful statements that I have ever come across. Now, your destinies and experiences through life may not be the same as mine, but I'm hoping that sharing bits and pieces of my journey can awaken a savior in you. Just know you're a warrior. Never in my growing up had I ever imagined leaving Uganda. The fact that I come from a very humble background, all I can brag about my past is the love that we had as a family. We did not have that much. All we had was us. And we're very aware of the extremes of our poverty. My father was mostly away overseas for about 2 weeks, 1 month, trying to make ends meet for his little 2-roomed household of 5. Over 60% of Ugandans live in slums, and my family contributed to that statistic. By 2014, according to the list of 150 African countries with the most slums released by United Nations Millennium Development Goals database, Uganda was the 50th. Home was in a famous slum, commonly known as Kabalagala. Literally, our place was translated as Chikubamutwe, to mean head bangers. And if anyone heard that you lived there, they would shake their heads and say, nothing good comes from there. Eyoteri kalunji kavayo. Like any other slum, there were poor living conditions, poor structures, lack of access to adequate clean water, congestion, high crime rates, you name it all. The high levels of immorality I was exposed to and my siblings as a child, as children, were terrible. There was prostitution, loud music, both old and young men drinking cheap alcohol, fighting all day, stealing, married men engaging in domestic violence, children not going to school, loitering around, begging for food, everywhere dirty. This kind of environment, it had all kinds of aggressive people, very dangerous. Sometimes we could hear even gunshots. Yeah, bombs. I remember one time we were sleeping and it was New Year's Eve, and we had something burst out. And of course we couldn't go out to find out what exactly was. But the next day, the following day, we could hear the news. It was a bomb that busted and very many people died. Us living in that kind of slum, we were so scared for our lives whenever we heard of such stories. But I can assure you for one thing, if God's hand is upon you, nothing shall destroy your life. What helped my siblings and I the most was the fact that our parents were very, very, very strict on our movements. And apart from school, we would move out only for church, or when we were sent out for kiosks that was very near. I mean, the shops were very, very near, the groceries. Of course, as children, we never saw the need for all the rules, but growing up, one begins to understand and appreciate the iron hand of every African parent. They say education is key to success. Therefore, even though we lived in poverty, my parents were at least able to take us to the schools that we went for. They were not high when it comes to school fees. That, of course, did not make it easy as it sounds. School was about 4 kilometers away, and we were only given return transport money. But in the morning, we had to walk the long distance. It actually reached a point, my very smart brother suggested that we saved the 2 cents for transport and instead use it for buying chapatis or something to eat for break time. So we would save those 2 cents. We didn't have that luxury to be given both transport money and for mid-morning snacks. So after school or in the morning, one of the journeys, we would beg the conductors to let us sit on the engine area of the vehicle. It's commonly known as kameme in Luganda. It was for free. I mean, literally, this place was not counted as a seat. This part is the immediate part after the driver, and front row passengers sit there. Usually when they are traveling and they have heavy luggage, they will put their heavy luggage. But for us, what we would do, we beg the conductor so that we may be able to save. So we would beg the conductor kindly with this teary eyes, "Conductor Wambi, conductor please." And luckily enough, the conductor would let us sit, and also the passengers. If the conductor tried to refuse and say, "I'm going there," or something, "Go, today you're not sitting here," the people would look at that conductor and be like, "Help these kids out. Why wouldn't they sit?" And you find that some people that had stuff that was carryable, they would carry them for us to sit on those seats, the kameme. Like that, we would travel to school without any problem. Thriving in school alone does not make one successful. That much I have learned. The Ugandan government emphasizes on music, dance, and drama, known as MDD, to be taught as an extracurricular activity in both primary and secondary schools. I was always an active, talented participant. However, many students felt they were being forced into it and they wouldn't give their whole heart. I initially started doing it just as something I was so passionate about, and it later on rewarded me. Usually, the most talented traditional dance presenters were awarded scholarships, travel opportunities. Having that in mind and remembering how my family was struggling back home, I made sure to perfect my skills. I remember this one competition we had in primary where I danced so hard that my traditional outfit started falling off midway the performance. Now, as we were dancing on stage, we were left two teenage girls trying to find a life. One thing that made me different, I was so passionate about what I was doing. I really loved music, dancing with all my heart. I would just give it 101%. Imagine. Actually, we were left two girls, both young and talented, very talented. Our attires fall off, both of us. And me, in my mind, I had it, this attire, even if it falls off. In the Bible, David danced until his clothes went down. But he continued with the music. He was so in the presence, taken up by the presence of God. So in my thinking, I was thinking that if I mind about this attire, I'm just going to lose it all. So I continued. I danced so hard. I danced very well with my smiling face. And guess what this other girl did? She was so frustrated by the costumes falling off. She picked up the costumes. And you know, the song was like left with, let me say, 1 minute to end. For her, she picked up the costume, tried to wrap it up again, and dance and find me where she had stopped from. But me, I continued all the way. I was dancing, very happy. I didn't mind about this thing. I was so taken up by the moment, and I chose to ignore this attire. Me, as Ritake, I said no. Determined to win, I continued dancing and smiling without care, with the hugest smile. The judges were so impressed. They praised my smile, they praised my dancing skills. They couldn't believe what I did. This called for my first breakthrough. The judges eventually named the winner, and to very much beautiful shock, I won. I was awarded a scholarship and traveling opportunities to the United States of America, USA, England, among other countries. So from there, my studies continued, and as I was studying, I was also practicing and polishing my skills. So there reached a time, and we had to travel. Like, so excited. And my first time to travel, all in school, very young. Actually, that time was so blessed that we were just handed over passports when traveling. We didn't have to go through the hassle of looking for the visa or what. Thankfully enough, Uncle Paul used to do all that for us, and everything was just on the table. I remember it was only like, I paid like $10 for my passport, imagine. So there's this one time we had to travel, and I had to go to the embassy for interview, and we would only say we are going to travel to just visit. And it was true, we were going to visit. So with my hugest smile, they asked me, what are you going to do in USA? I'm going to travel, I'm going to visit. So, and guess what? My passport doesn't come out that day. My God, you should have seen me crying, tears whole night, praying, oh God, what is this? But it was just delayed. Actually, they forgot it. They just kept it aside. Going to the airport, so excited. Everything was so smooth. We reached these kind of places. I'm telling you, when I was traveling, my mouth kept staying open, gaping at the beautiful cities we went to. Oh my God. I remember one of my choir mates, she told me, at least shut your mouth for 1 second. My mind kept thinking, people actually stay in such places, with such buildings, with such roads. in Uganda. The words of envy that would come out of me were like, mama, that is when you admire what you want to have and you cannot have it. I used all the terms during my travels. The images of such places stayed in my head too much that I had started dreaming of living there, staying there. Here I was, a girl from Chikuwamtwe, born with one cloth. Meanwhile, that was the towel, bedsheet, same time having an opportunity, actually a blessing that I didn't know my future was so bright. So we went through all the cities, and my God, what I saw, till now, I still dream about it. But luckily enough, I came here to Dubai, so it's more like a dream come true right now. Imagine you from seeing these slums, your home is just a simple home, small home, and poof, God takes you in this place that looks like heaven, I should say. Hi. In fact, I put more concentration in MDD than in serious school work. That my performance began declining. I would always look up to traveling every year. However, nothing goes unnoticed by a struggling African parent, especially when it comes to school. And because most of them dream about having their children who will become lawyers, doctors, or engineers, despite of their small pockets, my parents decided to change my school. Guys, I was so heartbroken. This crushed me. I felt my world was going to stop. I cried. I begged them to help me stay. I prayed. I promised I will work harder in class, but nothing could change their minds. So eventually, I simply resorted to praying, finishing my studies. Thank God I got the degree. And because they were happy, they celebrated, and God gave me another chance to travel. But up to the university, nothing had happened. However, instead of giving up, my faith in God grew stronger and stronger, and I became more staunch in my beliefs, still carried on with my gift of life, gift of dancing, and I just hoped that one day that day will come, I'll travel out. I must say, my survival after school revolved around the blessings of friends,